response.
Thank you. I agree with the two previous speakers, my colleagues from California. Here we are dealing with a flawed bill that would deny our stewardship of our environment, all while we're faced with an economic consequence, with a default that stares us in the face. For the past 200 days, the Republican leadership of this body has set aside America's priority of job creation in order to talk about the debt and to talk about the deficit. My concern is that as we face that looming threat of default, my Republican colleagues aren't doing much but talk. After 200 days with no jobs agenda, after 200 days of voting to destroy millions of jobs, after 200 days of saying that those hardest hit by the recession should bear the burden of unbalanced cuts, after 200 days of rhetoric and walking away, my Republican colleagues have forced this Congress and the American people to wait yet more hours to see and vote on their plan. As we all know, last night the Congressional Budget Office pointed out that some of the cuts in the Speaker's plan weren't real. Meanwhile, the Tea Party base has said that cut, cap, and balance is the only plan they will support. We considered that plan last week, and it has failed in the Senate. It is a plan that Bruce Bartlett, who was a Reagan advisor and a Bush Treasury official, said was, and I quote, mind-boggling in its insanity. Others have called it the most ideologically extreme budget legislation to come before Congress in decades. Governing is not always easy. There are extremists on both sides of the political spectrum and standing strength. But our advantage lies in the fact that, however vocal, extremists are a minority, a faction. I have traveled my district extensively in recent weeks. I've held town halls and meetings with local businesses, and here's what I've heard. We have a spending problem in Washington, we have a revenue problem in Washington, but most importantly, more than anything else, we have a jobs problem in America. So what are we going to do about it? Well, my constituents had an easy answer there too. First, cut what doesn't create jobs and stability for the middle class. That includes wasteful government spending. It also includes tax breaks for corporate jet owners, millionaires and billionaires, and a system of kickbacks to the big oil companies that even their CEOs say they don't need. Second, save whatever actually works. That means investment in education, so middle-class kids have a chance to get good jobs when they finish school. That means boosting innovation, so we can get American industry booming again. And it means infrastructure, so that we can drive to work on safe roads and bridges and build them with American materials and workers. Finally, my constituents have told me that whatever talking heads on TV say, they know fair when they see it, regardless of partisan divides. We have an aging population. Nobody disputes that. But the majority has introduced plan after plan after plan that would cut Social Security and end Medicare in order to protect corporate tax breaks and long-standing kickbacks for special interests, put us in a position where ideas are replaced in government by ideology. We have been asked in recent weeks to manipulate the United States Constitution in order to enshrine this ideology. Where am I from? We believe that the only ideology that belongs in the United States Constitution is that of democracy. And in our democracy, if you want your ideas to become law, you don't rewrite our history or change our foundational documents. You come down to this floor, you tell your colleagues and your constituents what you think, let us debate it, amend it, and vote on it, right here in front of the cameras and in front of the people we are sworn to serve. But that's not what's happening today. After 200 days of talking about little else, my Republican colleagues have forced this body and the American people to wait yet hours to see their top-secret default plan. Exactly which principled stand was important enough for the Republican House leadership to walk away from the negotiations for the fifth time. But more importantly, the clock is ticking. We need to get back to work, and the American people are getting sick and tired of the games. But just based on rhetoric, we know that their call to end Medicare and end Social Security plans would protect 2% of our population at the expense of the rest of us, the 98% of us. I'm sure that takes a lot of vote wrangling. But we've had a year to get this done. No matter how much Congress cuts their classroom budgets, even our elementary school children know that a due date is a due date. Democrats support a balanced, bipartisan solution to reduce our deficit, to create jobs, to grow our economy, and to expand the middle class. My Republican colleagues say they share those same goals. So I would invite them to come down here, join us, share their plan. Let's get on with business. America is waiting and deserves better. We need to solve this default crisis. It's staring us in the eyes. With that, Mr. Chair, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back.